Hello, I'm Dr. John Iskander. Welcome to CDC Beyond the Data. As part of this month's Grand Round session on the ALS Registry, I'm here today with Becky Kidd, a person living with ALS. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, John.
So, Becky, could you just share with us your personal experience?
Living with ALS, sure. I was diagnosed about 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, January 2012, just down the street at the Emory ALS Clinic by Dr. Jonathan Glass. I celebrated, which is a weird phrase, my 5-year anniversary in January. But something that people really need to be aware of, this disease is fatal. It's terminal. There are no treatments. There are no cures. And 80% of the people who have ALS die within 3 to 5 years. So as I hit my 5-year anniversary, it occurred to me that 80% of the people who were diagnosed when I was are gone. So it's a tough disease to live with, without a doubt. Mine started in my right leg with some twitching and some cramping. And so I have what's called lower limb onset, which again, if you have to have this damn disease, that tends to be a sign of a slower progression. So the fact that I'm 5 years into it, I feel pretty fortunate that I've made it this far. But things are starting to change, clearly. I need to probably spend more time in a wheelchair, per my doctor's advice, as much as I wanted to hit him over the head with my cane when he told me that. But it's the right thing to do. My hands and arms are getting really weak. So, you know, when you can't do things like pour a cup of coffee for yourself anymore, or twist the cap off of a bottle of water, you don't realize how critical all those systems are to just day-to-day living until those things start being taken away from you.
I mean, this is really a remarkable perspective that you have on this. I'm not sure I would frankly have that perspective. You shared earlier about what you said were some of the gifts this has given you.
Yeah.
I think people would be very interested to hear about that.
Yeah, one of the things I sometimes say when people ask me to talk about this is, believe it or not, there are gifts with disease. Now, of course, you don't want to have the disease, but several gifts. One is that nonsense just goes away. You never feel more in the moment than when you are living with a terminal disease. The nonsense at PTA meetings and gossip in the neighborhood and around the pool, all that just goes away because it's simply not important. And what God has taught me is you stay in the moment, appreciate what you have right now, and love it, and appreciate everything you do have instead of everything you're losing. And that's not always easy to do, don't get me wrong. This thing, it's a horrible disease. And but there are gifts associated with it. One of the gifts that I tell people is, I have a 14-year-old son. He was 8 years old when I was diagnosed, and we waited a while to tell him because my progression was so slow, it wasn't impacting his life. But we've told him, obviously, a few years ago, and a gift, as much as you don't want your child to go through this, you watch your child grow. You watch his heart expand. You watch his ability to deal with stress and sadness grow. I know I won't be here someday when he gets married or to meet my grandchildren. But what I have right now as a great gift with him and my husband is just an amazingly real, deep and loving relationship in the here and in the now, and the nonsense just goes away. And that, and another gift is I've met some amazing people who are living with this disease. They call it kind of the nice person's disease. I don't know, I wouldn't apply that to me. I'm kind of a wench sometimes. But truly, some of the nicest people I have ever met are people living with ALS. I don't know why that is. I'm sure in the registry they should probably do a study on that, but that's one of the gifts as well.
So you mentioned the registry, and I think many of us who work in public health would be interested to hear a patient's perspective on the registry of what your experience is and how you see it.
Yeah, well, again, I think the registry is essential. Again, ALS is a rare disease, or what you might sometimes call an orphan disease. So there's typically 30,000 of us living with it at any given point in time, and about 30,000 people a year die of it. But we have to understand what causes it. How do we create a treatment and a cure for this thing? And I know that might not happen in my lifetime, but it's essential, and that's where the ALS Registry is playing a key role. Obviously in gathering essential data, in working with all of the neurologists. I've sat in several of their annual meetings, and I've just been so impressed by how these neurologists from around the country come together to share their findings and their learnings, to recruit for trials. So believe it or not, you would think anyone would sign up for an ALS clinical trial in a heartbeat, but that's not the case. It's actually very difficult to recruit people to participate in these trials for a lot of reasons. One, because of just proximity. A lot of people feel like, I don't have that much time left. I'm not going to, take the risk of having that time shortened by being in a trial or whatever. So where the ALS Registry is just essential is to bring the community together around this so that we can all work together in terms of generating interest, generating data, and generating participation in the clinical trials.
Are there any other perspectives on either research in general or on clinical trials? Again, many of us are much more used to the perspective of we're looking at the results. Are there any additional insights in those areas that you'd like to share?
Well, yeah, I think, again, being a person living with ALS, I know the research is going up and getting better and more of it, which is good. But I'm not going to lie, it's very frustrating when you do hear about the research that, I don't know the exact statistic, but most of it's still being done in frickin' mice and not in people. And so we need to figure out how to speed this up and get these trials and get these potential treatments in people living with ALS. And we're willing to take that risk. Here in Georgia, the Right to Try bill was passed, I think, about a year or so ago. And, when you're living with a fatal disease where there are no options except prayer, you're willing to try anything. And so I would hope that our doctors as well would be willing to take that risk as well. But a lot of it is also controlled by the FDA and all the bureaucracy that surrounds getting something to market. I can't remember the exact statistic, but I think it's something like, to get a drug to market, a new drug, is something like $50 million in 10 years. I might have that wrong. But again, when you only have a 3 to 5 year lifespan, come on, it's not going to help you. And my philosophy, it's probably not going to help me in my lifetime, but I'm here to help everyone behind me. And as much as I can, so I consider myself one of the head guinea pigs over at the Emory Center. But we got to speed this up. And I think the ALS Registry, it will be a really critical part of that.
Well, thank you very much for sharing those very important perspectives with us today.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.
Please join us next month for Beyond the Data.